I tell you what, guys, it seems like we got some really strange and odd occurrences going on. Let me put this windscreen on so that the wind doesn't blow all in this mic because, I mean, shoot, it almost seems like they're manipulating the weather out here. It's April 9th, Easter Sunday in Florida, and it's like 50 degrees, crazy high winds, on top of breaking news, new laws just being enacted and threats effective immediately that they are coming to take everything from everyone. I want to share a term with you that you may or may not be familiar with, and that term is called eminent domain. And eminent domain is basically the government's right to confiscate property from people. Now, granted, they are theoretically supposed to offer compensation to purchase property from people, but there's a little bit of a caveat there, a little bit of a loophole, which I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that, but more importantly, I want to talk about this breaking news on this new law. And it says here, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Proposed new law. Let me make sure I've got this exactly correct. I don't want to. Okay. New law has been introduced to require all food products containing insects to be labeled with a special warning. Now, introduced, I believe the introduced is proposed. Therefore, new law proposed that anti-bug law to require labels on insects containing food. Let's see here, proposed anti-bug law, which would require all food products containing insects to be labeled with a special warning. And yeah, never in my life would I have imagined reading this. Now, granted, this is the Polish MP, and it says here that the Polish MP, I don't know what the MP is exactly. It says the move by the member of the ruling Conservative Party comes amid accusations that if progressive opposition parties win power during this year's elections, they will push an Orwellian "Eat the Bugs" campaign to restrict the consumption of traditional meat. The opposition has not formally announced any such plans. Can you see the wind trying to blow my laptop away? Unbelievable, folks. I'm going to have to make this one quick so that I don't get blown off this balcony here as I try to bring you guys these updates and important information. So anyway, eminent domain is basically, that's the other thing. If what we see is all part of a global strategy and plan that will circulate throughout all countries. So if you're watching this from a non-Polish country and you're saying to yourself, well, that doesn't affect me in my country, well, perhaps maybe not yet, but odds are it will soon at some point in time. Much like eminent domain, which eminent domain could also go by various different terminology, for one being CPO, or compulsory purchase order, which actually I want to pull that up. I want to pull that up and share with you what that means. A compulsory purchase order is a legal function in the UK, United Kingdom, and Ireland that allows certain bodies to obtain land or property without the consent of the owner. Wow. See, eminent domain. So let me pull up eminent domain as a comparison. An eminent domain is the right of a government or its agent to expropriate private property for public use with payment of compensation, whereas the CPO, compulsory purchase order, is a legal function in the United Kingdom and Ireland that allows certain bodies to obtain land or property without the consent of the owner, no mention or reference of purchase. or compensation. And again, much like that's not my country, well, eventually we will see literally a one world government where all these ridiculous rules and legislation and executive orders will be universal standards of law, quite possibly, potentially. And it goes on and on. Odds are where I am currently right now would more than likely not experience eminent domain or compulsory purchase order, CPO, or any confiscation by the government for this property, unless there were precious resources, minerals, a water source, or maybe even a highway that they wanted to run through here, or a pipeline, or something for their sustainable green electric grid or climate change proposals. But big risks actually come from those that have hundreds, if not thousands of acres of farmland. Strategically, ironically, coincidentally, their plans and agenda align with those properties in those areas, and they just happen to be confiscated, affecting people's livelihood, affecting people's food source, widespread. Meanwhile, also, we can't rule out the fact that every property is subject to seizure, confiscation. And you would think, well, I've paid off my loans. I've paid the banks. I own this property. From whom it came from, I don't know. That's a topic of discussion for another video. But at the end of the day, you have an ongoing obligation in perpetuity for eternity to continuously pay your property taxes and whatever the governing agency deems is the appropriate cost for said property taxes. And if they really wanted to, they could squeeze you out, price you out of the game, and put you in a position where the property taxes are too expensive, and thus they can then take what you thought was yours, what you thought you had, owned, maybe even passed down through generations, through family, only to be lost because for 1 year, property taxes weren't paid. As we move towards an age of no more dollars, no more physical paper money. You guys may have seen a video before where I gave you a demonstration of paper money, and it flew away on the camera. I won't be doing that today because it's a whole lot windier, and if it falls down there, then yeah, I'm not going down there. So we're moving to a point of which we're moving to an age, a day of which no more physical paper money. We're going to be using digital currency, central bank digital currency, maybe one world digital currency, as Russia, China, BRICS are already pushing for this to squeeze out the US dollar. That dollar being already devalued tremendously, which I need to share that with you before I talk about these corporations and their record profits and their layoffs and their masterclass of job cuts. But we'll get to McDonald's and Walmart in here in just a minute. First, I want to talk to you. Somebody left a comment and it says, Kevin, I got two thoughts for you. First, when you mention the channels who keep talking about the real estate market crashing, two of the channels that come to mind are Jeremiah Babe and I Allegedly. I watch JB every day and agree with him on most things. I've also said repeatedly that he had not been factoring in a currency collapse, which would mean that real estate prices explode higher because they're marked in a currency that is garbage. His tone has changed considerably in recent videos where he regularly mentions Venezuela. Given that JB is actively looking to acquire real estate, he's going to notice Venezuela of real estate prices on the heels of the current price drop, head fake, and it's going to come to dominate the conversation in his future videos. Dan at I Allegedly is still talking about fire sales while he walks around recording his videos. Dan is going to be to fire sales what Kramer was to Bear Stearns. And anyone who takes Dan's advice to wait for fire sales is going to get destroyed. They won't be able to acquire assets because all they'll be doing is sitting on a pile of worthless currency. Second, The FDIC and other insolvent insurers, I'm going to paraphrase the words of the great Bill Holter. What is the value of an insurance contract that can't or doesn't perform? Zero. Rich people know this, which is why they are getting their holdings out of banks and into physical assets. What's Dan doing? Telling you to have multiple bank accounts. Now, folks, I don't watch a lot of other YouTube creators, especially within this niche, because I don't want to potentially be swayed or influenced and maybe even regurgitate, copy, duplicate their content and bring to you that you've already seen. I want to bring you something new. I want to bring you something fresh. I want to bring you something helpful and maybe something that you can take and then add on to what Jeremiah Babe, what I allegedly Dan, what other content creators are bringing to you: news, headlines, breaking news, urgent warnings, updates, information. So I can't comment on Jeremiah Babe's content or I allegedly's content, what they have said before in the past, what they're saying now, what they may say in the future. Maybe I'll start checking them out a little bit more often, but probably not. I don't like to potentially put myself in a position to bring you something that I don't think is of value because you've already gotten it somewhere else, if that makes sense. So, however, I have also mentioned getting stronger positions in assets because we are moving towards a point in time where I don't want to be heavy in dollars because the dollars are going to be worthless and worth less. So just keep that in mind, folks. Also, all the while, huge corporations are making record profits despite this devaluation of the dollars, which says a lot when you think about it. Record profits on top of record layoffs. Walmart and McDonald's really making news headlines here recently. And it's funny just how little they actually care about their employees, about the staff, about the workers that have been with them through thick and thin for years, while they are holding a masterclass on how to cut staff and do it virtually.
Fired from Home Trend, Jessica Kriegel, Chief Scientist of Workplace Culture Partners. Good morning to you. We've seen this now repeatedly, including, I think, probably most famously at Twitter, Jessica, but now you have a company like McDonald's doing it. There's some people who say, obviously, that this is a terribly undignified way to fire people, that it creates an abstraction in terms of the relationship that an employee has with the company. However, I heard from some people yesterday who said actually that this is more dignified, that the idea of having to walk out of an office holding a box in front of all your other colleagues, that is worse. What do you think?
It's absolutely more dignified now that working from home is normalized. We work from home. That means all of the business of work, collaboration, innovation, and also getting laid off. Frankly, I think McDonald's is teaching a masterclass in layoffs. They broadcasted back in January that they were coming. People were able to prepare. Now April has come and they're letting people know in the comfort of their own home. They're able to maintain confidentiality. They don't have to walk their stuff out down the hallway and be escorted out. If I were getting laid off, I'd want to be laid off at home, not at the office.
Yeah, can you believe this, guys? So now they're making layoffs.
I tell you, well, if you've worked from home, then you can be fired from home too. No need to come to the office. No need to show up face to face. Just don't show up. We'll call you. Don't call us. And they are executing this right in front of our eyes, quite possibly this next week. Monday, starting April 10th, we're going to see some crazy announcements here about their layoffs. Walmart, McDonald's, other companies, corporations, axing employees virtually over the phone, through email, through Discord, through whatever inner office chat system they have set up. What does this all mean? Is it all interconnected? Is it tied together? The food that we eat, potential risk factors, our health. And Bill Gates already stating that, the next pandemic, when and where it will happen. While we're seeing a shortage of hospital staffing and we're seeing a rise in debts, we're seeing a drop in the demand for the once world-renowned U.S. reserve currency, while also a strong devaluation, high inflation of that same dollar, opposition fighting, potentially our saving grace being decentralized cryptocurrency to make sure that that doesn't happen. Warning signs and labeling that we must now be alerted that our food contains bugs, crickets, who else knows what bugs they'll put in there, some of which I'm sure none of us would prefer to eat. Some of us would jump on the couch if we saw some of them. I don't know. Maybe they have high nutritional value. Maybe they're high in protein. Technically shrimp, if you like eating shrimp, they're considered, the bottom feeders of the ocean. So I don't know. This could go anywhere. Eminent domain, property taxes, CPO, compulsory purchase orders, the de-dollarization, the destruction of the dollar, the death of the dollar, no more paper money, CBDC, Fed Now, ISO 20022, layoffs, job cuts, terminations, hiring freezes. The rich get richer, and the rich get richer.